Hey, everybody. What is today? Is today Tuesday?
It is the
Wednesday?
13th.
August 13th. Happy August 13th, everybody. I am here and in Chicago, and Reed is in beautiful Vermont. That's why he's got the log cabin behind him and the beautiful trees. And we're going to share with you guys some awesome information on Amazon product launch. And this is really the start of a series of webinars that are coming out from Sellerlabs on product launching, different way to launch products, different things you need to think about with product launching. So we're going to be taking you through a whole bunch of webinars over the next few weeks. And thank you guys for joining us. As I like to get started, I like to kind of learn a little bit about you guys and help Reed understand what's going on here. So we're going to start with a quiz. I also want you guys to throw in the comment section a little bit about like where are you from. Gives us a little bit of information about who all we're dealing with, and lets us kind of learn a little bit about you. Our first poll question, if you will, is asking about currently launching a product. So what we're talking about today is product launching lessons learned the hard way, which means we're going to talk about failure because that's where we learn the most. We learn the most by talking about what we did wrong. And so we're looking to know, are you currently launching a product, or are you looking for later this year? Are you looking for next year, or you just kind of came on to see how cool this content was going to be? Awesome. So looks like a lot of you are either launching this year or launching right now or planning to launch this year. So this information will be really relevant for you. We can go ahead and close that poll now. And if you have any questions along the way, you can throw them in the chat. The chat will be a way for us to communicate with you. We're going to take questions at the end. And so let's go ahead and get started. All right. For those that don't know,
from Italy.
What's that?
Welcome. Somebody's from Italy. I said I saw somebody from Italy on the chat, so that's great. Welcome.
Awesome. We got people kind of coming all over talking about some of their products that they're launching and things like that. So thank you guys for sharing. I didn't have my chat up, so I had to change my window screen. Now I can see it. I can see it all. I see you all coming in now. So my name is Jeff Cohen. For those that are not familiar with me, I'm the Chief Relationship Officer at Sellerlabs. I've been with the company for over 5 years. I've been educating you and sharing information with you about how we succeed as sellers on the Amazon marketplace. I had the pleasure of meeting Reed probably 2 years ago at the IRCE conference, and I've had the opportunity to present on stage with Reed, and have learned a lot about him and the businesses that he's worked for and that he's consulted with, and thought that he'd be a great expert to bring on the webinar today to share. So Reed, can you tell people a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Bag Balm, and maybe some of your history?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been around for a long time in the world of digital e-com, and spent a lot of time at eBay. I was at Keurig Green Mountain, which is now Dr. Pepper Snapple. I ran their direct-to-consumer digital Amazon business. Pretty much did the same thing when I jumped over to 7th generation. I was at Kantar Consulting for a while, so it gave me the opportunity to actually work with some of the largest consumer packaged goods companies in the planet and help them with their Amazon e-com strategy. When Bag Balm approached to kind of lead their organization, I jumped at the opportunity to really go back and look at a brand that's been around forever, but I look at it as a 120-year-old startup. So we're a year into Amazon, we're a year into product innovation specifically for e-commerce. So that's kind of my background.
Yeah, and I think that's really what's interesting about this is that you're taking an established product. So if you are a customer of Bag Balm and you've used it before, let us know in the chat. You probably recognize the green 10, right? That's kind of their signature. And it really wasn't being sold on Amazon. So you had to deal with all of the issues of cleaning up your distribution, cleaning up your products, and then ultimately launching new products onto the platform. So that's the part that we're going to really focus on today, is around the idea of the launching of products. So as we like to do within our presentations, We're going to talk a little bit about what we can expect from this webinar and ultimately what we should not expect from this webinar. So we're going to talk about mistakes. We're going to talk about how mistakes cost money. We're going to talk about errors. We're going to talk about how to avoid them. We're going to talk about exploring the concept of pivot or persevere. We're going to talk about how you need to build a strategy and talk about calculated risk. But more importantly, what are we not going to do? Well, we're not here to discuss keyword research and sales estimates. We've got great videos on scope and how that all works. And a lot of people have talked about that, but that's not what we're going to focus on today. We're not going to talk about how to find suppliers, how to import products. We're not going to give you a foolproof profit to pick a winner, right? That's not what we're here for. Ultimately, we're not here to tell you that selling on Amazon is easy, and we're not here to sell you a course. So at the end of this, we're not going to end with, and if you want to know how to do all of this, we've got a course to sell you. This is not for basics, right? We're now talking about building business strategy. That's what we're going to be getting into today. So when we think of product launches, they can be a huge source of blank. And I want you to go ahead into the chat box and tell us, what do you think when you think of a product launch? The product launch is a huge source of what? Now, it doesn't have to be one of the 7 terms that I came up with. You can add your own. And we're just trying to get a sense of where you're at. So you have some people talking acne, pain in the butt. Big source of money. I like that one, Jennifer. That's a good one. All the above. Fear, but excitement. Great answers. Confusion. That's a good one too. Confusion, not one that we had really thought of. Uncertainty. Yeah, a few of you are kind of throwing uncertainty out there. And a few people are talking about how they love Bag Balm. So we're still catching up. Frustration, hope and stress, advertising dollars. Great. So ultimately, product launches are a huge source of a part of our business and how we grow. And so what we want to do is look at Reed and your examples of successes and failures and turn them into really what we call lessons learned. And so we really boiled this down to 5 lessons that have been learned from successful and failed product launches. So the first one we're going to talk about is the concept of paying attention to detail. So Reed, you have some examples of where you've launched products in bad categories with bad packaging, not really understanding the rules. Can you talk a little bit about how you try to pay attention to the details when you're launching the product and how the failure to do that has led you astray in some of your product launches?
Yeah, I'll talk more on some recent examples in my tenure at Bag Balm where we've run really fast and tried to streamline the launch process and get stuff out the door as quickly as possible and ship new products. What I found was that by not paying attention to the details, it set us back, call it 6 months really, and having to pull products back from Amazon. They were dented, had to relabel them. And I'll give you a particular accurate example right here. You see, I'm sure you all know and have heard of CBD. It's everywhere. So we have a CBD product. It's not Bag Balm CBD. It's CBD with arnica and lavender oil, olive oil, beeswax, etc. And you can see that there is a beautiful hemp leaf right on there, and it says 0% THC. So I thought, great, let's get this sucker on Amazon. We'll make millions, and we'll be raining money for us. What come to find out, because we had used the term 0% THC on our product description and on the image, the label, Amazon booted it off very quickly because it's part of their banned substance list is THC, drugs, drug paraphernalia, etc. So very quickly I learned that we cannot sell anything that says THC. I knew we couldn't say the word CBD on there. So that was kind of a lesson learned. So we had to ship 600 of these back. I sent a few just to Amazon to start, but we had to send 600 back, pull the labels off, relabel it. A lot of them were dented, so I had to get new tins, remake the product. So learning more and more about our own events every day at the same time.
Yeah, and so this comes down to like everything from the packaging size to the prohibited language. And that was a great example. Thanks for sharing. And understanding. So I had a product that I originally launched, and I thought it was going to be a small standard size package. And when the packaging was complete, it was 1 inch too long on the width. And I didn't really think of it. And I went and I launched the product and I sent it in, and it turned it from small standard to small oversized, which increases your cost significantly. And if I had taken the product, and instead of putting the product in like this, I turned it to more of a vertical, or more to a diagonal, I could have made the box that 1 inch smaller that I needed, and I would have saved myself a lot of money. And, the profitability is what ultimately is going to determine whether a product launch is successful or not. We have to make money from the products that we launch. And when we're doing that, we have to be paying attention to all of these things, because these are all costs that just eat us up. So if our packaging is incorrect and we pay more for our shipping, if our wording is incorrect, there's a fee to pull all those units from the warehouse, ship them all back, repackage them, and send them back in. So it's really important to pay attention to all of these details along the way.
Stacy asked a good question. There's over 7,000 THC results on Amazon now. I've seen that as well, but I'm staying away from using that term when I'm selling this product to CVS. Yes, I clearly state 0% THC, but I haven't played around with that on Amazon. And just like everything we know about Amazon, it's a mystery. It's something works one day and they completely change it, and the next day it's completely different. So I don't really know, but I'm going to stay away from that term for now.
Yeah, we could probably do a whole webinar on CBD, because I've had a lot of people reach out to me and ask me those questions too. And for the most part, it's allowed in the pet category. But when you talk about it from the human side, there's a lot of rules and restrictions. So if it's a product that you sell, make sure you clearly understand what you can say and what you cannot say. All right. Let's move on here to our second lesson. So we were talking about the idea of uniquely differentiating a product. And as Reed and I were preparing for this, I was trying to prepare a slide, for this. And I found this on the internet, and I thought it was great. So it was, know what you stand for, own it, learn, and adapt. And, that's really the key to differentiating a product that isn't just like everybody else's. So Reed, do you have any examples of either yours or examples that have come out from others that you've seen, where the failure to differentiate the product has really just kind of made you one of the many that are on the Amazon search results, which don't let you stand out?
Yeah, early on we had launched a product that we thought was great, very viable. We did kind of our own user testing on it. We did a lot of detailed dives on just the number of sellers selling it. And as we launched it, we realized, when it was in stream, that all of a sudden we had a huge amount of competition that kind of came out of nowhere, whether they were private labeling it, whether they were doing something, buying it from suppliers from China. But all of a sudden this category exploded. It's not fidget spinners. That's a good one. That's a good example that, we figured out very early on that, okay, this product is not differentiated enough for us to be, have a viable sales funnel on it. So we had to kind of unload it, and we put it to bed very quickly. Kind of on the flip side, we have, as a branded manufacturer that sells to lots of other companies, as well as our own Amazon business, we have a pretty leaky supply chain that I've been trying to, crush. So you've got like other third-party sellers selling our product. So what we wanted to do was differentiate ourselves and create new products that no other sellers had with kind of existing products. So we have a big plastic collectible pail, I call it. It's not really a collectible pail, but it's a pail. We fill it with different Bag Balm products. Nobody else in the marketplace can sell those. So that's how we have adapted, evolved, and pivoted to really own our own product assortment. So kind of two different cases.
And when it comes down to it, I think this is an area where a lot of sellers fail. And so one of the areas that we recommend for differentiating your product is to read your reviews and to read the reviews of your competitors. Do you have any examples? I know we didn't talk about this beforehand, but do you have any examples where you've used the reviews from you or your competitor to help make the new product that you were trying to sell?
I mean, I think at seventh generation, I can probably come up with some examples where I'm using them at Bag Balm as well, is that when we're launching new products, and here's one, for example, that's yet to come to the market, but it's a natural moisturizing lotion, completely different formula. And I went round and round on trying to understand what scent should we use. There was conflicting, opinions in the office, and certainly our board. They like lavender, they like peppermint, or we couldn't really land on the flavor. So I looked at Amazon and looked at the BSR, the best selling rank, on what are the top 10 skincare products out there, what flavors are they, what scents are they, and really the ones that had some of the best reviews are fragrance free. And consumers really voiced their opinion that I've been looking for fragrance free. I don't want to smell like a flower. I need something that works, that doesn't smell at all. And so that's kind of the insight that we used to launch a new product without a scent. So looked at the reviews really to kind of inform us on what direction we wanted to go.
Yeah, so reviews are a great way to kind of get that. Not all of us have budgets to do testing user groups and all those types of things. And so I think that's a great example of one way to kind of use a review. Now, a little trick, just in case you're not aware of this: when a product has multiple variations, the variation that you see during search results is typically the best seller, right? So if they've got a vanilla, a lavender, a basil, and a peppermint, and the peppermint is the one that shows up in the search results, that typically means that that's the best selling of all of their flavors. Now, obviously, if you type in peppermint hand lotion, then you should see more peppermint flavors. But if you just type in hand lotion, and somebody has multiple variations, that's one way to kind of tell what is being used. And this is also a great tool for color variations or size variations to understand exactly what you need to do to bring something to market. But what's really important is that in today's market, you can't just bring a product to market and stick it on Amazon to be sold, because you have to find a way to be different than the other products that are out there. You have to make your product better. The great example I love to give is, like, if you go into the cereal aisle, the cereal boxes constantly are changing. So you can't just keep putting the same product out there and not adapting and learning from your competitors and from yourself and making your product better. So make sure that you're constantly improving yourself, improving your product, and you're bringing something new to market.
The one other point too on how to differentiate is wind chimes are going in the background. We look at a lot of free third-party data that anybody can look at, like just on consumer trends, behavioral trends, product trends. That helps us kind of direct which way we want to go for product innovation. And I think it does the same for smaller sellers as well. We know that Bag Balm has four very simple ingredients. However, if we're going after kind of the green leaning consumer, they might not really be interested in Bag Balm. So we're trying to innovate on products that have, essential oils, natural therapeutic grade products in them versus petroleum-based products. So that whole, there's a lot of insights you can get out there for free as well to help inform.
Is there one particular source that you would recommend? I mean, obviously it's specific to your product, but is there one that you think is a more general great place to start, or is it more of just Googling?
Yeah, I mean, it depends what industry you're in. If you're in the CPG industry, you can look at, everything from IRI data to, beauty trends. L2 or Gardner has a lot of good information. So it really depends on what industry you're in.
Yeah. So like for me, I use a source called eMarketer.
Yep.
eMarketer is one that we as marketers in the e-commerce space look to. They collect data on how's Amazon doing compared to other people, what's the spend on advertising and things like that. So that exists for your particular market. You just have to kind of research what the right place is. So one of the things you kind of brought up in the in the last example is this idea of pivot or persevere. And pivot and persevere is an idea that really was born out of the lean startup movement of agile product development, where you take an idea, you build a product, you put it out there and see how customers respond. And then you use that learning to pivot and make a change or persevere and move forward. The challenge in product launching on Amazon is that we fall in love with the idea of our product and not the data. So do you have any examples of where your company either made the right pivot after a product came out or did not make the right pivot and you chose to persevere and it wasn't the right way of moving forward?
Yeah, I'll I'll give a couple examples of kind of big examples from my consulting days, and then I'll kind of narrow it down to smaller, more understandable examples. But working with a large CPG company that just happened to be in the skincare category as well. Their heritage product was a big jug of skin lotion, moisturizing lotion, and that's what the owner's grandson wanted to sell. That's what the CEO felt that they should be selling. That should be their hero product. But if you have a single product on Amazon that weighs 5 pounds that is retails for like $6.95, you are basically bleeding the P&L down to zero. And so they were so I guess stubborn on wanting to make that work that they could not figure out an Amazon strategy. So our job was to really help them think about smaller pack size, different products, different ingredients that can raise the price, lower the ship weight to make it a home run. And I think for us, it was really, taking the same approach where we've got a 4-ounce tin, although this sells really well. If I look at it from a profitability standpoint, we're now bundling these into 3 packs. We're looking at, 4 packs of soap like this, for example, instead of a single pack or a case of soap. So really taking the same product assortment, but actually creating new SKUs with different bundles. So that's how we pivoted. We also, as I mentioned, are going after different markets. This is a $49.95 retail. It weighs like 2 ounces basically. So that's a hugely profitable product for us. So when I'm launching new products, whether it's for Walmart or for my own, e-com channel, I'm always thinking about e-commerce first, build the momentum, and then be able to take that into retail. So
one thing I want to kind of point out and address, because I know it's a natural tendency when we're watching a webinar like this, is to go, well, of course Reed does that. He's working with Bag Balm, but I think that, like, let's remind people, like, Bag Balm, you guys run on a lean staff, you run on a tight budget, and you really run with an entrepreneurial type spirit. With how you're trying to bring these things to market. And you took all of your knowledge of Amazon and brought it into a company that didn't really have an e-commerce strategy. And so these are the tactics that you need to be applying to your business. This is just how Reed has chosen to apply them to the business that he's running.
And that's a great point. And what I did at my days at Kantar was I actually looked at some of the most prolific third-party sellers who have invented brands that are, hugely disruptive. And I showed how, all of a sudden your main pain relief medicine is being usurped by this little startup from Australia that is suddenly crushing it and killing the competition. It's amazing. I think the point is that us being so small, you on the webinar potentially being very small too, that we have the ability to make decisions, rapidly iterate, launch stuff very quickly, and really dance and weave around these big incumbents and actually steal massive market share from them. And that's been a lot of fun.
And so ultimately the lesson that should be learned here is that don't fall in love with the product, fall in love with the data. And the data is going to tell you whether it's time to pivot or persevere. And the success or failure of your product launch is going to come based off of the data. If the data is telling you that the product is not profitable, it's not profitable. Get out, go find something else.
Yep. Don't throw good money after bad.
Right. Let's go talk about our next one. I've always, looked at this and under the idea of hope is not a strategy. But a lot of Amazon sellers launch a product with I'm going to put this on Amazon and hope that it sells. I check scope. It has good sales rank. It's got low competition. It's got sellers I can beat, but ultimately you have to have a plan for success. So can you talk a little bit about how you plan for success with product launches and set yourself up to be nimble?
Um, I wish I could tell you exactly how we plan for success, but we're still, to quote Reed Hastings, building the airplane as we've jumped off the cliff. So we're still very trying to be very nimble, very light at the same time. I'll give you an example of, I don't have tens of thousands of dollars to do 6 months of consumer use testing or focus groups, like zero budget for that, absolutely nothing. So I think I showed you this product already. And I originally had the term Bag Balm Naturals on there as kind of the product launch. And I posted this on Facebook, I posted this on LinkedIn, and I got some great commentary back saying, why are you calling it Bag Balm Naturals? Does that mean that the old Bag Balm is not good for me or it's not natural? I thought it was. So that kind of raised a red flag for me, thinking that maybe we shouldn't launch that brand calling it Bag Balm Naturals, and it should just be under the Bag Balm brand name. So that's what we did. So far, we're seeing some good success stories on that. But I think we do rely on data first and foremost. So we look at scope, we look at a variety of other third-party tools to kind of give us an indication on how many sellers are out there selling the product, what's the profitability, what's the average consumption volume. I kind of look at this as share of skin. So that's what we're after, is how do we increase the usage occasion of our, the biggest organ in our body, which is our skin. And so I'm iterating and creating products focused around that. We know that that high-end bar soap is actually a growing category. And if I look, eMarketer actually has a great graph on that, the growth of that. People are paying $4.95 for bar soap. So we feel like that's an area that we can play and potentially be successful. And so far we have. So we look at trends, we look at consumer data, we look at profitability, we kind of do mock P&Ls on it, and basically, hope that it really works. So that's
yeah, and I think that that you say hope that it works, but you built a strategy. You have an understanding of the profit and loss that you're expecting from the product. You have an understanding of what the expected sales and velocity of the product are. And when the product comes up and starts being sold in market, you can then make determinations as to whether you're hitting the goals and numbers that you've set. And then you could make the decision of whether you need to pivot or persevere. And so the plan is to have that understanding of what that's going to be before it happens, and not just put your product out there and hope that it's going to be profitable and hope that people are going to buy it and hope it's something that people want and hope that it's a flavor people will enjoy. Do a little bit of research, use different sources to answer those questions before it goes.
And it's very much data informed decision making. And for those of you on the call, if you aspire to actually present to Walmart someday, what we do is we use our Amazon success and our reviews to really tell that story and say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Retailer buyer, look at how well this is doing on Amazon. It'll do equally well in your store, even if it's the local grocery store or mom and pop store.
So the last lesson that's learned is one you and I have talked about for a while, around taking risk. And we have kind of shared it as like big companies have big processes, and emerging brands can kind of take advantage of this if they're willing to take the risk. Can you kind of share how you saw the market when you were at Kantar and working with large retailers who had built-in processes to avert risk, and how taking that risk is helping you kind of take advantage of opportunities in the market?
Yeah, I sort of touched on this a little bit earlier, but big companies are really the tugboats of the industry, is that they require stage gate and the opinions of marketing managers, no offense, marketing directors, CMOs, legal team, that everybody has to have buy-in before you can even decide that you want to move forward with the project. Then you have to go through focus groups and surveys and 6 months of user testing and home use testing, which inadvertently, what people do in surveys is completely inversely proportional to what they do in real life. So I don't really do any of that. I think we do take a lot of bold risks, and a few of them have failed, as we have come to find out. But I think it's really, doing the upfront work and the math behind it, and then trying to, if you are taking risks, it's a risk that doesn't cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. It might only cost you $2,000 or $3,000. And believe me, that's what we focus on too. Is I go to Alibaba.com and I buy these tins for 32 cents versus going, and can order like 1,000 of them at a time. And I would argue that no other CPG company is probably going to Alibaba and buying tins like we are. And we're filling them with very, small amounts of product, knowing that we are going to do a very short run under 1,000. If it works, then we start to invest more. So our risks are there, but they're calculated. Hopefully that answers kind of what you want to do.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is that, like, if you're not willing to take risk, you can't expect the reward. The reward comes from taking risk, but it's taking calculated risk. So kind of moving on, we've covered kind of our 5 lessons, and now we're going to kind of cover a few tactics that you've used or that are used. So we have a quiz question for you on your primary tactic when launching a product. So if we can go ahead and launch that. We're looking for your primary tactic for launching a product. And if yours is not currently listed here, you can go ahead and add it into the comments. So we're kind of looking, are you primarily launching a product with sponsored ads, advocating networks, SEO, your own website, coupons, promotions, and deals? And again, if we're not covering a tactic that you consider your primary, I'll just ask you to add it into the chat. So we'll give everyone kind of a chance to answer this here.
Somebody asked audience research, which I think these questions are focused around. You've already done the research. You're launching the product, so you've done the due diligence. What are your tactics to kind of get that flywheel going? That's what you're after.
Yeah, this is really like, now my product is on Amazon or it's about to launch on Amazon. What is my primary tactic, or sometimes I like to call them levers, that you're going to use to get that product launch? I think what we kind of covered before was our tactics for preparing our product and preparing ourselves for launch. So overwhelmingly, we're using sponsored ads, and then it's kind of a mix between the other ones. So thank you for that. Looks like a few people are also doing friends and family or heavy discounts. Let's go through some tactics that we discussed and how they can implement or be implemented. So one of the things that I think really is a challenge for Amazon sellers when they launch a product is inventory planning. So it's planning for the initial inventory, but then it's also planning for the replenishment of the inventory, factoring in the time that it takes and things like that. So how do you kind of look at inventory planning for your initial order and for your reorder points?
For me, I mean, we're, as I mentioned, we're a year into this. We went through one holiday season. We're still learning. We're still launching new products. We rely a little bit on what Amazon Seller Central tells us on sort of the inventory refill cadence, but we also just make sure that we know we've got enough inventory for, like, based on sales velocity for six weeks basically is what we try to focus on. And we're still learning. We were out of stock on our best-selling product just 2 weeks ago, which certainly hurt us, but we're back in action very quickly. So for the higher velocity movers, we have a pretty good understanding of how quickly those sell through. For some of the newer products, we don't quite know yet, so it's really just an experimental approach at this point. And we're also lucky because a lot of our products we do make right here in Vermont, and we have a ample amount of inventory because we know we're going to ship out X amount of pallets to Walmart, and we'll just carve out some of those to use for Amazon. But some of the Amazon specific products that I mentioned that are, they're smaller runs, we might be doing a batch of 1,000 at a time. That certainly is presenting to be more of a challenge because sales do fluctuate. We might have to turn off marketing a little bit so that we don't lose the buy box or kind of go out of stock and inventory. So it's really, there's a lot of levers that we're pulling right now, and we're still learning, but we're just making sure that we have thresholds set that we're replenishing very quickly.
Yeah, and I think ultimately for a seller, it's about remembering your replenishment lead timeline, and you really have to kind of work your way back from there. A lot of times, you're placing your second order right when your first order hits Amazon because of the replenishment time if you're bringing things in from overseas and stuff like that. So it's something you have to be aware of. There's a concept on Amazon, and it's one we've talked about for a while, called retail ready. So the retail ready is images, title, bullets, customer reviews, inventory, buy box, and enhanced content. How do you look at retail ready when you look at launching a product? Are you fully optimizing your listing when you create it? When are you kind of going back to adjust it? How often are you looking at your listings and making adjustments?
Yeah, in a perfect world, just like you would with your own website, to ensure that you're updating your website copy very, very frequently so that it reindexes on Google. We kind of have that same approach on Amazon, that we do try to update. Perfect world, we'd like to do it every 2 weeks, but we kind of do it maybe once a month, where we'll change around some of the bullets. Your first question, we are kind of taking it out of the oven before it's fully baked, and then kind of finishing it along the way, if that makes sense. So we will kind of build out. Sorry, bugs. We'll build out everything we can, in the time that we have, and we'll launch the product, and then we'll kind of go back in and optimize it for SEO where we can. We'll optimize better images. We'll really use filler enhanced brand content at first, and then we'll customize it based on that particular product's attributes. So we don't sit back and make sure it's 100% retail ready. We make sure that it's pretty good, and we know that it's going to meet all the consumer questions initially, and then we'll go back in a couple of days later, a week later, and optimize it. And again, I have one person really that's running my Amazon business, and I'm jumping in when I can. So it's a small team, very small team.
So what Reed was talking about, because somebody already asked about this, was called reindexing. So whenever you make a change to your title, your bullets, your price, your images, you're sending a signal to Amazon that says a change has occurred. Take a look again. And so what that's doing is it's causing Amazon to kind of come back and reread your listing, which gives you an opportunity to kind of reset yourself in the indexing for keywords within their algorithm. So it's a pretty basic concept of SEO. It's something that's been known for a long time. If you continually update a page, Google comes back and keeps looking at it. They want to know the last time the page was changed, because there's no reason for them to re-index a page if nothing has changed. So what Reed's taking advantage of is the idea that Amazon is going to re-look at his page every time he makes a change. So he's building a cadence for making changes to his pages. I think it's a great tip.
One other thing too, Jeff, is on your when you go to list a product or an item, you have a variety of different buckets that you can fill: attributes, color, what's in it. Make sure that you're filling out as much of that information as possible, because Amazon gives you those buckets for a specific reason, and it just helps in general, the algorithm and your ranking. Another thing I just realized on my Seller Central account is, if you are a registered brand, you now have access typically to demographics, product demographics, and user demographics, which is really cool, because you can look at household income, age, gender, all sorts of attributes on who is buying your products, and you can start to put those in the product detail page. Like maybe this is for moms, or whatever it might be, or you put that in the seller in your listing tools as well.
Yeah, it's writing your profile to the buyer persona.
Yep.
So first reviews, it's come up a couple of times in the chat, people saying, how do I get my first review? All data that we've seen indicates that you need somewhere between 1 and 10 reviews. You can still generate sales without a review, but your likelihood of conversion goes up significantly if you can get a couple of reviews. How do you go about getting your first reviews?
For me, I think it's very similar to some of the questions or the responses you heard earlier. Is we first register it in early reviewer program for sure. We also reach out to our database of consumers, and we can either give them a promo. We don't say, hey, if you write a review, you get 10% off. We say, here's a coupon. We just launched this on Amazon. If you like it, love to hear from you.
You're going after people who are fans of your brand and offering them to buy the product on Amazon, which increases the likelihood that they will write a review.
Correct. And, and we're using social media to kind of let people know, and maybe giving a coupon as well. But I found that early reviewer program is great. It just, it gets the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 reviews out the door, and all of a sudden that really starts the whole process going.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with early reviewer, there's some notes in the chat box that'll tell you more about it. It costs $60 a SKU, and they get you up to five reviews within the first year. So something definitely to think about. So our next one is this idea that we fall in love with brands and not products. And when you and I were preparing for this, you mentioned quite a few times the idea of a product in a category versus a brand in a community. So how does Bag Balm kind of see itself as a brand in a community versus a product in a category?
Yeah, so the theory of a family of brands or a branded family, and we kind of look at it very similarly to to Apple, that you have an example up here, or Seventh Generation, where Seventh Generation is the brand and there's multiple brand name products under it. So Seventh Generation laundry detergent, Seventh Generation dish detergent, Darn Tough socks. I see somebody from Darn Tough. Hello. And I think we look at it the same thing, that initially the challenge for me was Bag Balm was kind of a one-hit wonder. We were the tin, the brand name was the product. So did I have a right to actually come out with, a moisturizing lotion called Bag Balm, or a CBD product called Bag Balm? And I felt like, because we don't have millions of dollars to invest in introducing a new brand out there, we decided to go kind of with our hero, kind of the mothership, Bag Balm, and create brands underneath that and products underneath that. So Bag Balm moisturizing lotion, Bag Balm CBD, Bag Balm pet care. So that's very similar to how we did this at Seventh Generation. So I felt like that made the most sense for us.
Yeah, and ultimately it's the idea that if you can build a community around your brand, right? People become more loyal to
Correct.
that brand, and they're more likely to try something new that you have. Oh, I'm not really sure what this CBD stuff is, but they have CBD paw pet care, and I have a dog, so I might as well buy Bag Balms because I already trust them with this.
Right.
And so when you build that brand and you build that community, you extend your trust to a larger network. And as you do that, your ability to launch products becomes infinitely better. Now, we're going to get into this topic of brand and community in a full-blown webinar on September 5th. And if my date's wrong, I'll be corrected here in a minute. And we're going to be working with Scott Volker from The Amazing Seller, who has pioneered a whole process for building a community and then building products to sell into the community. So instead of trying to find products to sell on Amazon, he tries to find a community and then build a community and sell products to that community. So it's kind of a which way do you want this to go? Do you want to come in from the left or come in from the right? And we believe that the future of selling on Amazon is around communities and brands. So the last one is really, and you've touched on this a little bit because you're multi-channel, but you've got Amazon, you've got your store, you've got other marketplaces. How do you leverage this community of different places people will buy and choose kind of where to promote, what to promote, how to promote, and to kind of cross promote across them?
Yeah, I don't know if I would say leverage the community to inspire purchase behavior at different channels. I think it's, we know who our biggest retailers are. So I kind of give them first rights when I advertise. Like, I'll do an advertisement and say, available at Rite Aid, available at Walmart, because that's obviously the bread and butter of our business. So that's kind of where I focus first. And then secondly, my secondary goal is really to build out my own first party data. So my email names, my social media followers, because I can talk to them directly. As I say when I speak, I don't want to put all my eggs in one Bezos. I want to make sure that I've got the ability to kind of control my own destiny and have hopefully 10,000, 20,000, 200,000 consumers that I can talk to, I can introduce new brands to. But at the end of the day, it's really the notion of what you said, omni-channel. That if I have a shopper who loves to purchase from Walmart, let her buy at Walmart. I'm not going to try to shove her into a channel that she doesn't want to shop in from. If they want to buy from Amazon, great. And I'm amazed to see at the amount of people that come to our Bag Balm website and buy one tin, an 8-ounce tin, for $13.95 and pay $6 for shipping when they can buy it on Prime for about half the price and have free shipping. It blows my mind, but I think people really love that relationship with, our brand, with our, knowing that they're buying from the mothership, and it's just a great feeling.
Yeah, and I think what it comes down, but you also said before that, like, when you launch a new product, you'll take people who would normally come to your store and you'll drive them to Amazon to try the new product. And so the relationship becomes reciprocal. If you can build this community, you can use that community to drive trial, to move them to your store and collect first party data, to move them to Amazon and drive BSR, and ultimately, as you grow into a brand and into a community and you have these different assets that you can use, I'm not going to say launching a product becomes easier, but you have more levers that you can pull in the launching of that product.
Correct. Yep. The ramp up it gets quicker and quicker with each new product we launch.
So we're getting close to the top of the hour, and I want to make sure I leave enough time for Q&A. But Reed has been nice enough to give a coupon. If you are interested in trying Bag Balm product, there's a 30% off coupon for the Bag Balm website. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be doing product launch planning strategy, really based around the idea of community and building community with Scott Volker from The Amazing Seller. And that's going to be on September 5th, and you can register for that next webinar if you're interested. So I'm going to go look here and see. Usually I get teed up some questions that have come from you guys and see what we've got. All right. So you mentioned these guys. So let's just do darn tough for a second. They're another Vermont company. They're in the process of getting up on Amazon. Do you recommend listing the whole catalog or just top sellers at the onset? So you already have a catalog of products. You're coming onto Amazon. How do you decide what to put onto Amazon?
Is that a question?
Oh, that was funny because it was literally crickets. Like, I asked you and it was literally, I heard crickets. Yeah, no, that's for you, Reed.
Yeah, sorry. Hey, tell Brooke I said hi, by the way. So for you guys, I would recommend at going after some of your, your best sellers first, gaining that momentum. I think if you tried to throw your whole catalog on at once, unless you're using, a pretty robust listing tool, you're not going to be able to give the attention necessary to those, the top sellers. That I would start kind of slowly with your best sellers and kind of go from there. Maybe you have specific Amazon SKUs already that you're thinking about that are not going to be sold into, retailers. So I think just focus on your top sellers and then slowly add to that as well. And you can do merchandising. You can do promotions where it's like, buy this pair of socks and get this pair for, 20% off, something like that. So there's creative ways to kind of build the basket size on Amazon with your products.
Yeah, he also thinks that you should start by buying Sellerlabs products, software to help you.
There you
he
go.
Forgot that part of his pitch. No, I'm just kidding. I think you're right? I think when you're talking about bringing an external catalog onto Amazon, I think the first thing you need to do is see what products are already there that you're not even aware of, because there may be some cleanup that you need to do, just bad listings. And then use the 80-20. We're going to be covering the 80-20 rule in October. When we bring Perry Marshall on to talk about 80-20 and the power of 80-20, but focus on the 20% of your catalog that's driving the 80% of your sales. All right, Reed, another question here. Is it a good idea to make a new product listing by combining two top selling products? So he has two products in the same category, and he wants to know, is it a good idea to make a new product listing by combining those?
So I guess the question is, would you have 3 total listings or just one listing with a combination of those 2 products?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Are you talking about bundling? Are you talking about bundling those together and creating a new listing? Or are you talking about creating variations and having the variations set up?
Yeah, and the other thing too is if you have those products that are doing really well, potentially you could keep the same ASIN, keep the reviews, and create kind of a new product, but it's under the same ASIN. I think that's a little fuzzy area on that one, but that is a
Yeah, it
possibility.
depends on, I think it depends on the product category as to
Yeah,
how you can do the variations. I know Amazon's also done some stuff to cut back on that, right? To stop
yeah.
that behavior.
I do not like variations. It drives me nuts, and we are killing those as quickly as we can. Um,
So you would rather have um, a single pack of soap and a 4-pack of soap and a 16-pack of soap as 3 different listings as opposed to being variations.
yeah, it just seems cleaner for me, for my business.
Okay.
So, but that has to do with the fact that I have a lot of other 3Ps selling my products. So I'm trying to get rid of them to some extent. So that might just be for me. Um, there was a question about does changing your images sort of force a reindex? I don't know for sure, but I would say if you can switch them out, every couple of weeks, that might be good. I think it'd be more beneficial than not doing it at all.
Yeah. There's also a cool tool. We're going to be kind of highlighting them in some future stuff called PickFu, and you can put your photos up there and see which one performs better. And it might just be a matter of like switching out photos to see if you can change performance.
Careful.
What's the best way to gain reviews on new products? As a consumer, I get a lot of leave a review, please pamphlet, which is against Amazon's TOS. So the first thing I want to say is that putting a pamphlet in your box that asks somebody to leave a review is not against TOS. The language you use might be against TOS, but asking someone to leave a review is not against TOS. It's offering an incentive or using language that has an if-then statement. So if you said, if this product was great, please go leave a review. If this product was not, please contact our customer support. That is against TOS. But the actual inclusion of a pamphlet that tells somebody other people want to hear your opinion, please go to Amazon and write a review. But do you have any kind of tricks or tips and the way you ask for reviews?
Well, we do take advantage of your tool where you follow up with the consumer after they make a purchase 3 weeks and ask them to, if they're happy with it. But no real tips and tricks. Just sending emails out to our database or asking people to leave a positive or negative comment based on a product and how they liked it. But really, it's just gaining those initial reviews from using the early reviewer program, and it seems like it just kind of snowballs after that for us.
So this is an interesting question. You may be familiar with this. You keep a Vermont original. It's bold on your packaging. So this guy said, how can you illustrate in photos that your product is made in the USA or Canada, and that is better and worth paying more than a cheaper product made in China? So how do you really differentiate like quality of your product, where somebody's looking at your product and they're looking at a non-US product that can be made for cheaper? Is there a way to kind of bring that value across that says, hey, I've got, better ingredients, better product, better manufactured better, therefore it's worth paying more?
Yeah, I mean that's if you think about what you see even in stores on shelf where you've got a big "Made in the U.S." "Made in USA" logo on it. I think that iconography is really powerful. So on your product detail page where you have images, you've got your hero image and then some of your other quality attributes. You can have little icons on there that says "Made in the U.S." or "Made with natural ingredients." So that whole iconography I think is very important. That people can see that very quickly and indicates that this is made by local people, not cheap foreign imitation. And I guess that's the extent of what I would think about.
Yeah, and I think that iconography, I want to add that to my vocabulary. I like that. I would also say that I've seen this done before. I actually might have saw this at a Kantar event when you were there, which is you put like you created an infographic
Yeah.
that is, it says like ours, theirs, and you kind of show like what makes your product better than the cheaper version of the product. So the question is like, if I look at your product and I look at their product and I look at them side by side, can I tell what's different? And if I can, then that's great. And like, as Reed just said, if it's the quality of the products, then say like ours, all natural ingredients, vegan, made in the USA, theirs, products that you can't pronounce, made in China, or whatever it is that creates that differentiation between your product and theirs.
One of my best performing campaigns on Amazon was, was just the term 4 simple ingredients, no, and then we would say no phthalates, no, none of these bad ingredients.
You're giving the scary words that you want them to look on other people's.
Right, exactly. And then I know on the PDPs you can do a comparison chart that Jeff was talking about, and you can say ours, made in the US, made by happy workers with fair pay, made with natural ingredients. Theirs, you don't want to say sweatshop, but made with child labor, made in overseas, contains lead.
Be careful that you're making claims you can back up, but yes.
Exactly. Yeah. You can just put question marks, unknown. And I think that's pretty powerful.
So I think we have time for about 2, maybe 3 more questions. I don't know if you've done this or do this, but the question came up about large scale deep discount promo codes on product launch. The old launching services. Do you guys ever use any of those? Do you have any thoughts or comments about them? Otherwise, I can provide some.
Yeah, I mean, when we do launch a product, I think we do have a little bit of a discount. I mean, I'm trying to pay very close attention to our margins and profitability. So we do launch with a promo. We'll do an email. We'll do, we'll do some.
But you're not doing 70, 80, 90%.
No, never. Yeah. No, that just cheapens the brand.
Yeah, so you've made a decision that you have a brand quality that doesn't want it to be there. I think that the person asking this question is more in the lines of the old tactic of give your products away at a 90% discount, get a couple of reviews, get your BSR going. I think that you're right. It's not against Amazon's terms of service to sell your products at a really deep discount. I do believe that the Amazon algorithm has changed over the last 2 years, and that tactic doesn't work as well as it used to. You're not going to get the same bang for your buck that you were getting before. You used to be able to give that away and skyrocket to page 1. I'm not going to say it won't help your sales velocity, because it does help your sales velocity, but that sales velocity doesn't sustain itself like it used to. And so you have to really do a cost benefit analysis and think about using that money in other ways. Think about using that money in sponsored ads. Think about using that money in building a community. Think about using that money to build out better, listings for your content. That's, I think, better long-term ways of doing things. If you take the mentality of building a brand and building a community, then you do not have to give products away at a deep discount. You just don't have to, because once you have that brand and once you have that community will support you in the products that you launch. And so if you're in today's world where, what I would say is that if you're launching products with heavy discounts, you probably have a product and not a brand. And what I would be focusing my energy on is how do you shift your business from being a product to being a brand? Because once you become a brand, you start to eliminate the needs for a lot of those things.
Yep.
All right, I'll get off my soapbox. Let's see here. Make this our last question, unless we don't know the answer. When launching a brand new SKU, do you only launch on Amazon and then later add your own website and channels, or do you do them at the same time? So seller, not Bag Balm, but in general, do you see a launch on Amazon, build an audience mentality, and then expand, or try to do everything at once?
I mean, it all depends. You look at, for example, away.com, who have built an amazing business completely off the Amazon platform. And if you look at other brands, like they feel that Amazon, if 80% of product searches start on Amazon, that's where I want to be. My approach is both, a parallel path it, that there's an enormous trend from consumer packaged goods companies in general to not only have an Amazon presence, but to have a direct-to-consumer presence as well. As I mentioned, don't place all your eggs in one Bezos. Like, I want to have my own first-party data as big as I can, my email database. I want to have as big as an Amazon business as I can. So, when I started, we launched Amazon, then we launched bagbalm.com as a direct-to-consumer business almost simultaneously. Both are very successful for us, and I think it's they play different roles within our organization, but I think it's important to kind of have both at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that it's proven that if you have a website and you sell on Amazon, your Google traffic will indicate that a lot of your traffic comes from Amazon. And so the consumers are they're leaving Amazon and they're going to check you out on your web, and they're leaving your web and going to check you out on Amazon. So I'm a prime shopper. If I was shopping for Bag Balm and I was on their website, I would probably go check out and see whether I can get it cheaper on Amazon. So Reed talked about how people are loyal and will pay more to buy direct. I'm one of the people that will go because of Amazon and buy. So I'm going to jump back and forth. And so as your brand grows and as you grow, those are something that you need to think about, because you do need to be in those places. And I think it's a matter of bandwidth and budget that's going to tell you whether you should do them at the same time. So I'm going to do a bonus question before we end, because I think this is one that a lot of people, I know it's one that a lot of people ask me about, and it's going to be a nice little bonus for those of you that have stuck around. I've not prepared you for this, so I don't know what your answer is going to be. Have you come across companies trying to claim your products, trying to sell on your brand products that aren't your brand? How do you deal with that? How did you gain control of your listings? I know it's something that you had to do when you first started.
Yeah. Question for me. So yeah, we definitely did brand registry. Like I actually have our trademark, letter on posted on my wall, so I can always refer to it. So the first thing I did was I us on brand registry, and then I called a variety of different. Well, this is when Seller Central actually had an 800 number that you can call, and I would give them the information saying that we are the brand owner. Here's the proof of it. It's in brand registry. They are misrepresenting our brand, and little by little we were able to shut them down. Now you have to obviously submit cases, and we have had our products hijacked, basically the ASIN's hijacked, and suddenly it's a different image than what's really on there. So it's going through the Seller Central support tool all the time, making sure that you're working with good reps that will help you out. But it's just again, it's this whole whack-a-mole mentality. I know that Amazon now, I think it's $5,000 a month. They have a strategic, what is it? Not a strategic vendor, but strategic seller
manager or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. We opted not to do that because it was ridiculously expensive. But you can have somebody that will, for $5,000 a month, will fight on your behalf. And I haven't experienced any luck with that because we're not using it. But it's really just a lot of hard work to kind of reclaim your ASINs. But brand registry is really the first place to go.
Yeah, and a story we're working on for the future is transparency. So if you get into the Amazon transparency program, it really locks down your listing in a way that no other program locks down, because transparency is the proof of manufacturing to distribution. And if they can't prove that, the product doesn't show up under your listing. So it's something to potentially think about as well as the Amazon transparency program. And we've talked to a couple sellers who do transparency in very highly competitive categories, and it's done wonders for their business. So we have a quiz to kind of end the presentation on. So the last quiz that I want to ask you guys about is just, how do we do today? So we'll go ahead and post that quiz. How did we do today? If you have any final comments, questions, suggestions, or things we could do to improve this webinar for the future, please add them to the chat. And we would love to hear that from you. And since the quiz isn't popping up, I don't know where the quiz is. what I'll say is go ahead and put into the comments 1 through 5. So if we did great, give us a 5. If we did not do great, give us a 1. But if you're going to give us anything less than a 5, you have to tell me something we could do to improve in the future. There we go. There's my quiz. So you can just take the quiz here. Let me know how we did. If we did not meet your expectations and we were something less than a 5, please add to the general comments. Tell us what we could do to improve. We do work hard to put these presentations together for you. Our hope is to provide you value in growing your Amazon business, and we constantly are seeking to improve. So thank you, Reed. Thanks for coming on today. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being so open about the successes and failures of your business. And I appreciate having you on.
Well, thank you. It's been an honor, and it's been great kind of tag teaming on a few things with you, and I appreciate it. And and if anybody in the audience has any more questions, you can find me on LinkedIn or anywhere really. So
awesome. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.